Hello, my name is Curtis Crane from the Crane Center for Transgender Surgery. I'm a board-certified plastic surgeon and a fellowship-trained reconstructive urologist. Today I'm going to be talking to you about how we approach insurance companies to get your medically necessary procedures covered, in particular scrotoplasty. I'm really proud that back 8 years ago, when I opened the practice in 2012, I was one of the first surgeons in the US to say, I will work with any insurance company. I truly believe these are medically necessary surgeries, and the reason why we have insurance is to cover those procedures. I really don't like it when the financial burden of a surgery is placed on my patient. I really, in my heart of hearts, believe insurance companies need to pay for all of this. And so back when we first opened in 2012, I was maybe 10 or 15% insurance-based and the rest was cash pay. But through a lot of fighting, through various governors saying that transgender exclusions are illegal, peer-to-peer reviews, appeals, we're now about 85 or 90% insurance-based and only 10 or 15% cash pay. So I'm very proud of that. I'd like to discuss with you a little bit of what goes on behind the scenes. Typically, our team, which is comprised of many individuals that work on your behalf to go through the hoops of the insurance company, talk to them, find out what's covered, what isn't, they submit a list of codes that are assigned to each procedure you're having in your particular surgery. And sometimes all of those codes are accepted, sometimes some of them are, sometimes none of them are. And then we appeal. Through appeals process, then comes time for what's called a peer-to-peer review. And that's when me, being a physician, talks to a physician employed by the insurance company to see if we can get this covered. So you have someone with my medical knowledge talking to typically a primary care doc that maybe doesn't really know as much about transgender surgery, but they're knowledgeable of medicine, and we can have an educated discussion on why this is necessary. So a common reason why an insurance company might not approve a procedure is because they say, well, it's cosmetic. I don't believe I do any cosmetic procedures. They are all reconstructive. And reconstructive surgeries are supposed to be paid for by your insurance company. For example, with scrotoplasty, an insurance company can say, well, the scrotum doesn't really have any function, therefore it's cosmetic. And a very compelling argument that I make that no one has ever been able to dispute. Now, that doesn't mean all the claims are approved. Sometimes they just say, you have a really good point, but we can't change the policy. A really great claim I make is, well, do you offer breast reconstruction for women with breast cancer? And the reason why I ask that is not because I don't think insurance companies should pay for it. They absolutely should pay for it. But it's because after strong lobbying in the 80s, every insurance company covers breast reconstruction after a woman has had a mastectomy for breast cancer. And so I'm asking a question I already know the answer to. I say, do you cover breast reconstruction after a mastectomy for breast cancer? And they say yes. And I say, good. Do those breasts have a function? The function of breasts is to breastfeed an infant. And they say, no. And I say, but you cover it because it's normal for women to have breasts. And they say, yes. And I said, so you deem it a reconstructive procedure? And they say, yes. And I said, is it normal for a man to have a scrotum? And they say, yes. And I said, is it possible that in some men, some elderly men, that have to be on testosterone because they've gone through a male menopause and their testicles aren't secreting testosterone anymore, which is very common, is it possible that that scrotum has no function? And they say, yes. And I say, well, then how can you deny scrotoplasty for a trans person and not be discriminatory? Your policy is inconsistent. And I get all kinds of varying degrees of stuttering and and buts and at this point. But in the end, some insurance companies can just say, well, I'm sorry, it's not covered in the policy. And then I say, well, you should really meet, educate your superiors. This is your job as a physician. If you understand my argument, you could change this policy so that the company you work for is less discriminatory. I get kind of nasty with them because it really pisses me off. And so sometimes it changes, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes they schedule further reviews. There's all kinds of scenarios. But that is the argument that I make. I tell them this is not a cosmetic procedure, it's a reconstructive procedure. It's normal for men to have scrotums. A cosmetic procedure is when you take a normal structure, such as a nose with a bump or something. Like, you take a normal structure and you enhance it. You make it more aesthetically pleasing. Like, I can think of 100 reasons of why I should have a nose job, but I don't feel like it, so I don't. That would be a cosmetic procedure. My nose, we can say, is relatively normal. It's normal for a man, trans man, whatever, to have a scrotum. And so denying that is, in my opinion, discriminatory, as I described. And so that's another way I differentiate between what is cosmetic and what is not. Is it normal right now? If I have a trans guy in front of me that doesn't have a scrotum, that is not normal. He's a guy and he should have a scrotum. If I had a patient in front of me that just didn't like the way their scrotum looked and needed a little tuck here or something there, that could possibly be deemed cosmetic. But to go from zero scrotum to a scrotum is definitely reconstructive. So that's another argument I make to insurance companies to try to get your procedure, scrotoplasty, approved. Thank you very much. I hope this was informative, and good luck in getting that insurance approval.